There's way more to consider than just client budget when you're pricing out a design project. A lot of designers just totally guess when pricing out their work, and this just doesn't work. Some designers just go based on how much they think their client would be willing to pay. And this is not only wrong, but potentially dishonest. Some designers charge simply based on the scope of the project, which is a little bit better, but it's still ineffective. And a lot of designers will charge based on how long the project will take them, which frankly is just plain dumb. So believe it or not, there are 13 different factors that you have to consider and calculate when pricing out your projects. And if you neglect any of these, you're going to end up either losing the client or you're going to end up losing tons of money. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you all 13 of these pricing factors. And if you stick around till the end of the video, I can almost guarantee that you're going to close more clients and you're going to be earning more for every one of your projects. So let's get into it. Okay, so let's get the obvious ones out of the way first. Number one is the scope of the project, or in other words, the total workload. So for obvious reasons, larger projects are going to cost more money. So the larger the project, the more you should charge. So before you give a client a bid on a project, you need to really understand all the work that's going to go into it and all the resources that you need to complete the project. The second factor is time to complete. How long is it going to take to finish the project? Now, this can be difficult, but you have to do your best of calculating exactly how long it's going to take to finish the project. Otherwise, you could actually end up losing a lot of money. So, for example, a $2,000 website that takes just 3 weeks to complete is worth way more than a $10,000 website that takes you 8 months to complete. The only exception is if a client is asking you to complete the project more quickly than you're comfortable with, then in this case, you can charge them extra for a rush order. Factor number 3 is industry standards. You have to understand the average that everyone else is charging. So a good example of this is if I was going to get into the cookie selling business, I would have a really difficult time convincing people to spend $75 on a single cookie because the industry standard is probably between $1 and $3 per cookie. So you need to make sure that you are pricing your services at least somewhere close to the industry standard. Otherwise, clients just aren't going to want to work with you. Factor number 4 is your availability. If you are really swamped already with a ton of projects, you better be charging more and raising your rates for future projects, especially if taking on another project means you're going to have to work overtime. Factor number 5 is experience or expertise. So ask yourself, how many other people in the world could do what this client needs? If it's a basic brochure website, there are literally tens of millions of other designers out there that could do it probably cheaper than you could. But if you're talking about a very custom website with a CMS system and custom integrations, there are a lot fewer that can do that, so you're going to be able to charge more. Number 6 is client size. For obvious reasons, you're not going to want to charge a local cupcake shop $70,000 for a website. And you also don't want to sell a website to a Fortune 500 company for $2,000. In both cases, these are unreasonable prices. And if you try to do this, neither of those clients will take you seriously. So I would be curious to find out how much you charged for your most recent project. So if you're comfortable with sharing, you can drop that down in the comments below and I'll do my best to respond to everyone. Factor number 7 is client budget. So if a client tells you that they have a $10,000 budget, this does not mean that you should just automatically charge them $10,000. Instead, you should justify your prices and show them just how much you can do within that budget. Now, budgets are not always a hard boundary, and a lot of times you're going to be able to get clients to pay even more than that, and that's great as long as you can provide the value to back that up. So being able to figure out the client's budget is a really helpful guide when pricing out a project. Factor number 8 is the ease of finding and closing new clients. So if your positioning and your conditions make it difficult to land any more than 3 or 4 clients per year, you better be charging a lot per client because otherwise you're not going to earn enough money to survive. So I would definitely recommend picking a niche that is easier to find clients because the more clients you can find, the less you have to charge to reach your financial goals. Now, if finding clients is something that you feel like you're struggling with, I've got a ton of free videos here on my YouTube channel, and I've also got a full course called Web Design Sales Mastery that you get full access to if you join my private community. And I'll put a link right up here in case you want to check that out. Factor number 9 is inflation. Prices are going to go up over time, so your prices shouldn't stay the same for very long. Especially as your expertise and your experience grows, your prices should too. So if you're charging the exact same rates that you were charging last year, it's time to raise your prices. Factor number 10 is overhead costs. If you have a lot of expenses like paying employees or paying for a physical location, you're going to have to charge more to make sure that you're profitable. And in most cases, clients will understand this and be willing to pay more because these extra expenses that you're taking on, oftentimes they do enhance the experience of the client. Factor number 11 is value. So this is the value that your solution is going to bring to the client. So the more valuable the solution, the more money it's going to earn the client, the more you should charge for it, and the more the client's going to be willing to pay for it. Now, the one thing I would caution you of is trying to charge based only on the value. So if you have a website that is going to generate $10 million for a client, this does not mean that you can charge $2 million for a website. It's just not reasonable, and clients aren't going to like that. So you need to consider the value of your solution within reason. Factor number 12 is geographic location. There are some countries where the rates are just naturally going to be lower, and you alone are probably not going to be able to change the industry standards in those countries. So you have two options. You can just charge less and try to land more clients, or you can look to find clients in other countries where the industry rates are higher. Number 13 is payment terms. So if a client wants to pay over a longer period of time in payment installments, it should cost them more. So if you are selling a $5,000 website to be paid off at the end of a 6-week project, but the client wants to instead make payment installments over 12 months, the total should increase probably to something like $7,500, because the more time you spend without that money in your bank account, the more it costs you. So you have to increase your prices to account for that. So if you want to see a few examples of how much I charge for my design projects, I've got a couple videos right here that you can check out. And if you enjoyed this video, it really helps me out if you hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.